Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go.
And yes, let's go. It's the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show, and I'm joined by a CFLer, an NFLer, a Super Bowl champ. You know him, you love him, a Rider season ticket holder back in the day. Ryan, thanks for joining me, bud. We want to get some sponsors out of the way first before we dive into this thing and take some calls and take some chats. I want to thank District Brewing with their Super Squeeze Seltzer, Mango Lime, and Passion Fruit Lime. Also, Mr. D Stats, Cocktails, Dreams, and Cravings at 1832 Vic Avenue East. They give away tickets for every when it's a home game, they give away tickets to the next home game, and when it's an away game, they give away a jersey. So thanks to those two sponsors, and we'll get to more as we roll along. The Rough Riders come up with a big victory, 19-9 over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. You played for both teams, so it's great to talk to you about this. Let's start at the end. What did you make of that last play? It's Shea Patterson's fault, and Adam Big Hill may get fined for that.
He'll probably get fined, but this is what adds to the Saskatchewan-Winnipeg rivalry. It's like this is what we're all here to watch. We're here for it. So yeah. I'm not mad at anybody for it.
Yeah, it was a physical. Well, if you're Patterson, though, and your quarterback's on the sidelines, you might want to just go down instead of running around. You could just fall down and end the game, right?
Hey, I mean, he's still young. He needs to learn this still. He's still pretty pumped up just to be on the field. So,
yeah,
he'll learn as time goes on.
Big week or big last couple of weeks for him. He became a father with a son, Carter, him and his wife, Jessica. And he comes off a loss, and he wasn't spectacular, but I'm going to ask you as a former professional football player, if I say, what do you want your backup quarterback to do? What do you say?
I want him to come in. I want him to manage the game. I don't want him to be a hero. I want him to take control, not throw interceptions, and that's what he did tonight. He did throw one interception, but he controlled the game. He managed the game. He didn't do anything spectacular, but he came in there and did his job, and that's what I want to see.
What I like from him is the moment doesn't look too big for him. And he can see when the middle of the field's open. He knows where he's going to throw the ball. He knows what reads to make, it seems, for the most part. But the one thing that is dangerous with him is that RPO. And we saw it on the touchdown, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, as you said, the moment's not too big for him. This is a guy that played quarterback at Michigan, played in front of 105,000 fans every home game in Ann Arbor. The moment's not going to be too big for him. He's showing that right now. He has some ways to catch up to the pro game. He's not quite there yet. And he said the run pass option, it's also not quite there yet. But I have a lot of respect for what he did tonight. He managed the game and he played well.
So when you say, from your vantage point, because you're more than just a punter, you played receiver and you've been around, you've seen RPO. I mean, heck, Russell Wilson did that sometimes. So what isn't quite there yet when you're watching him play from the RPO perspective?
And sorry, before I said he threw an interception tonight. He did not throw an interception tonight. He threw a pass tonight. It's just experience. The more time you're going to be on the field. And I know people always want to talk and say that the NCAA is the same as the CFL, but it's not. Playing pro football, it takes some time. And this guy's been a professional football player for a month and a half now. He's been a starting quarterback for 2 weeks now. It's going to take some time. And I think he's done a great job so far. He has a long ways to go, obviously. But I see this guy as being a starting quarterback in the CFL in the next 2 or 3 years. Yeah,
so let's go with that, because I put out a tweet when the game was going on. I said, "Hey, Rider Nation, when Trevor Harris is healthy, do you keep him on the bench if you guys still have a winning formula? Like, how do you develop? And you're shaking your head. Okay, good. I'm of that mindset too. But I wanted to play devil's advocate. But how do you develop a quarterback to be that guy?
It's tough, but first and foremost, the starting quarterback for the Saskatchewan Roughriders is Trevor Harris. Okay, the second he's healthy, he'll be our starting quarterback again. Make no two ways about it. Okay, that when he's healthy, he's going to be the guy. Whether it's next week or 2 weeks from now, I don't know when he can come off the injured list. It's a couple weeks from now. He will be the starting quarterback. Shea Patterson does a great job, and as you said, I think it's just repetition. I think it's just being around the CFL locker room, being in film room with a guy like Trevor Harris, learning from him, just being the more. I mean, you got to realize a lot of guys have never seen CFL football before, and as a quarterback to never seen CFL football before and being pushed into the lineup, it's a lot on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Just the longer he's around the game, the more he's in that film room with Trevor, the more he's going to learn. The more reps he gets in practice, the better. I think that's how you develop a backup quarterback from CFL.
So Travis Taylor's busting my balls already. Ballsy drinking water, John drinking scotch. Awesome. Okay, hold up, Taylor. Hold up, John. I got a fridge here. Give me 1 second. Okay?
All right.
I am not gonna. No. So
Bullet bourbon, by the way.
One of our sponsors is District. One of our sponsors is District Brewing, so I'm gonna go with the mango lime super squeeze seltzer. Okay,
all right, buddy.
That's right. We can drink because we can't do it on radio, but we can do it here. So that's right. I love it. What year's that scotch?
Oh, it's a late night cheap one. It's just a bullet bourbon, so it's not. It's from the bottom shelf, not the top one.
A late night cheap one. Okay, I got it. You're saving up for when we get into more playoff stuff. Okay, right. I wrote down a bunch of different things to talk about, and let's talk about. Okay, so when we were making picks back a while ago, people were asking me that when Harris went down, what would you say? I'd say, you know what, the Riders can be 1-3 or 2-2. I'd be happy if I was a Rider fan. So I thought they could steal one against Toronto, and they did. With some, Cam Dukes didn't have a great game. And I thought this would be the game that they could take, okay? I thought they'd probably lose to BC on a short week in Montreal with a battle that's going to be against two of the best defenses in the league. I mean, you could flip a coin there. But I changed my pick this week, yesterday with Paul Waldo, with Paul Waldo. I said, I'm going to go Bombers because of the two rookie tackles. But Brammer came up big.
Brammer played great.
Yeah, he was bulldozing guys, John.
Playing there beside Furland, I was very impressed with him, and I would agree with you in that I wasn't sure what we're going to get out of him, and he came up big tonight. I thought this was going to be a really telling game. I think we've talked for a while, but I think earlier you said that the Bombers, they aren't the Bombers they used to be, and I kind of disagreed with you, and I said they're going to come back, and they kind of won those two games, and I was like, here they come. Here come the Bombers. They're going to win 12 games. After tonight, I don't think they look bad, but I think the Riders look really good. And you look like Brammer playing guard there. I was really impressed with the way he played. The farther we get into this thing now, we're looking at the Riders. They're for real. They're come out of your cabin, Saskatchewan. Come to the games. They're for real right now, and it's fun to watch.
Well, defense wins championships, and we'll get into that in a second. But I just want your take on AJ Ouellette, because I had people saying they're underwhelmed by him. We spent too much money on him. AJ Ouellette, just your thoughts on AJ.
First and foremost, AJ's a locker room guy. I can guarantee you can walk into that locker room right now, and every single guy on that team loves him. The O-line will do anything for him. He'll do anything for the O-line. Right off the bat, that's what I look at first and foremost. And I think he's played well. I think the first couple of weeks he didn't have a lot of rushing yards. I think he had 80 tonight. He had I think he's played well. In the CFL, you're not going to rush for 110 every week. That's just not the way the CFL works. And I think he's still one of the best backs. I think he played against the best back in the league tonight, who also played well. But I do not think we overspent for him. I think he brings more to the team than just playing the backfield. He's a leader. He's definitely a clubhouse guy. Guys are gonna love him, and I'm a big fan of his right now.
Well, he's also the other part of the RPO I talked about, because just his presence keeps everybody at bay, right?
Absolutely, he keeps the defense honest. You have to respect the run game with him. You have to know that he's going to be coming downhill out of the backfield, and he's for real.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Hey, if you want to join us and talk, actually, either via audio by nixing the video camera or do the whole thing, the whole shebang, please hit that link that I put out on the Facebook and all the social media pages at Ballsy Uncut. But have your camera ready so we know you want to come on air. Otherwise, if you click the link, you're just going to sit here and listen to the show. We got some chats here, too. Way to go with the bourbon, John Ohm says. John also says, Big Hill, big shit. Okay, so I'll say this, though. Adam Big Hill, he is a master at the short yardage, time in that. Mm-hmm. But it looks like Big E's kind of losing a step. I see him chasing a lot more than I'm used to seeing Adam Big Hill chase. What did you see from Big Hill's play?
I mean, we're Father Time is undefeated, absolutely undefeated, and he's gonna get us all. He got me. He got you about 95, Ballsy, but I'm only kidding. Yes, but it's in pro football, when you lose a step, it shows up really quickly. And I still think he's a great player. I won't say anything bad about Big Hill. Mm-hmm. I have a ton of respect for the guy. I think he still gets it done. He's just not the same guy that we saw in 2022.
Yeah, Willie's still running around.
Willie's still doing it. My God. I thought he was going to lose a step 5 years ago, and he keeps on going. Like, I mean, I got nothing but respect for that guy. Just an absolutely phenomenal football player. Absolutely huge fan of the Canadian Football League, and he speaks well about it outside of the game, and I really have a lot of respect for an American guy that comes down here and talks outside about how great the CFL is, and he does that, and I really appreciate that from him.
Zach Collaros looks like he had that broken thorax, which is like in your chest area. He doesn't look right. He looks like is it because of that? He's underthrowing passes. He threw that interception to Adam O'Clair when he looked scared. It looked like he was scared to get hit by Sanders, so he just threw it just to get rid of it.
And really, he should have had 2 picks tonight. Milligan should have had that other one. He undercut that route, and he should have had that one too, which would have changed the game even more. But Zach just doesn't quite look right now. I mean, he's still a top 3 or 4 quarterback in this league. When he gets right, he'll be the best again. And that's the thing about Zach. That's the thing with the Bombers is right now they don't look that great, but week 17, 18, 19, 20 is when they're going to come out and probably look a lot better. But we'll see what happens. But he doesn't look right now.
No, he does not. Tonight in both football games, I want to bring this up, and we'll touch on Edmonton, Ottawa too. You have to marvel. And when you're standing on the sidelines, I wonder if you just look at some of these guys and go, how can they do this? Whether it's CFL or NFL, but let's talk CFL. I saw Geno Lewis with a great catch on the sidelines. Yeah. I saw what's his name? Ackland with a beautiful catch, a toe tapper, 1 foot in. Dylan Mitchell, that was in that game. And then how about Ontario Wilson, who didn't have a spectacular game, but man, that catch on his sidelines, you won't see a better catch in the NFL than that.
No, that's what I really want to be like. These guys are for real. Sometimes you get some guys and they're like, well, these guys, they're not in the NFL for a reason, blah, blah, blah. NFL is 1A, this is 1B, and it's just below. And, when you watch it week to week like you and I do, Ballsy, we see some unbelievable plays. And I think sometimes people here take it for granted. And, it's just below the NFL. But really, when you see plays like you see Ackland, some of the catches Ackland makes, he's right there, and we should feel privileged that we have to watch some of these guys play for a week-to-week basis in our backyard.
Hey, doesn't that well, every CFL stadium, but doesn't that football stadium at Mosaic look majestic when it's full or when it's kind of full? Doesn't that look good on TV? That looks good. That's what we need, people to go to games, not just here, but all across the CFL.
When I was watching it tonight, that was, when I left the CFL, when I left football, I wasn't done with it, but I was done with it in terms of I did everything I could possibly do. And I don't miss it. But when I see a night like tonight, when it's 27 degrees, the fans are going crazy. They're playing at Mosaic. Riders are playing. I mean, I miss it like hell tonight. And it's a fun place to be when you get to watch a CFL game like that in that environment. And that's why people just keep on coming out across the country. I know the attendance has been down. People have been talking about attendance being down across the board. But I think it's going to, when you see what you saw tonight and you see what you see lately, it's going to keep on coming back, I think.
Well, with O'Day and Reynolds being introverted and not really wanting to have anything to do with the camera, Corey Mace has stepped up to be the face of this team, and he encouraged people to skip the lake and come out, and they did. They answered the bell for their coach. Corey Mace is the face of this franchise right now by far. Without Corey Mace right now, I don't know where this team is. And I said it right when they hired him. I said that, this guy's going to be the coach for the next 10 years. He's going to win 3 or 4 Grey Cups. People told me I was trying to suck up to get a job. If you think that, you need to Google me. Yeah. But it's great to see him. I wish more people in the organization would step up
and be the face of the franchise. But right now, he's the face of the franchise. I love the guy. He's doing great things. He has taken to Saskatchewan, taken to Regina the way I want my head coach to take to the community. And, he's moved his family there. He's begging people to come out, and they should be coming out right now. And they started tonight. I could feel the difference tonight. Could you not feel the difference tonight?
Yeah, I could. Yeah. And I'll tell you, before we take our first actually, we're going to take our first sponsor break, and then I'm going to bring up something else that I know you'll agree with me. But let's get to one of our sponsors here. Once again, if you want to get in, you can by clicking that link, or we'll answer some of your chats. But let's go to our first sponsor break. And that is for Payson Insurance Services. Kevin's a former Ram and Western Mustang D-line coach, and he was a D-lineman, and he used to coach at Miller. He's a free agent, he tells me. So if you want to pick him up to coach your high school team, he'd be more than happy to help out. He works with families and small to medium businesses, helping them maximize their financial security through investments and insurance products. I was going to ask you this as it relates to insurance products, and I've dealt with him. So go see Kevin Payson Insurance Services. When you played in the NFL or the CFL, did you have an insurance policy on top of everything else for yourself?
I didn't. I looked into it one time. Someone said I got to get my leg insured.
Yeah.
And I looked into it, and I thought it was too expensive, so I didn't do it.
Man, you're crazy.
It worked out. I bet on myself.
It did. You're drinking bourbon, doing a show with me. It really worked out, John. It really worked out for you. Anyway, go check out Payson Insurance Services. He's a great guy. And life insurance and wills are two things that you least want to do in your life. I got a will about 3 years ago, and now I've sat down to get an extra life insurance policy. So maybe that's why my kids are nicer to me now. Hey, okay. So John, I want to talk about this. For the last 2 years, when I was the voice of the Riders, I was really promoting Mark Mueller, that he is an up-and-coming, bright football mind, that he's going to be a head coach in this league at one time. And, some people said, oh, you're just trying to really be a Canadian lover and this and that. And he hasn't paid his dues. He's never been an offensive coordinator. We need a veteran guy to get us out of this hole. I'll tell you what, Mark Mueller has shown the ability to adapt as the game has gone on. Has he not?
Absolutely. I mean, I was right behind you that whole time. I was in his corner however many years ago when I was trying to push, in the back rooms to get him as the head coach of the Regina Rams. He didn't want it at the time. I was pushing for him to be the OC last year for the Riders. He didn't want it at the time.
Well, hey, wait a minute. He wanted to be head coach of the Rams, and Frank McChrystal had it lined up for him to be a head coach of the Rams. He was going to teach him, but then it got all effed around, and they went and hired that Bozo Gibson to come in, who went 0-8 and then pulled the shoot like I said he would.
You're more in the back rooms than I am, apparently.
Yeah.
But and I like Gibson, by the way, but he just wasn't good for the Rams. But now we're not getting him back for the University of Regina Rams. He's going on to some huge things in the CFL. I talked about it. I thought he was the second best hire the Riders had this year, and I think he's proven that he's not just Ron Lancaster's son or nephew or godson, whatever it is. Grandson. Thank you. It's so much more than that. He deserves every ounce of what he's gotten so far, and he's proving it. I mean, the Rider offense without a starting quarterback really is now 5-1. I mean, he's getting it done week after week, and people are seeing that he is the real thing. So I'm always a huge fan of Mark.
You're younger than me. I'm still an advocate of the 50-year-old guy. Okay, I'm not done yet, but what I'm talking about in football is. It used to be, remember when John Gruden got hired? It was like, John Gruden's a head coach of the Raiders. Now you got Sean McVay, you got Kyle Shanahan, you got Zach Taylor, you got young guys. Now you got 39-year-old Corey Mace, you got 30-something-year-old Mark Mueller. Like, guys, it's a different generation now. Guys gravitate to younger people that they can kind of relate to, in my opinion.
I think they have a better grasp on the locker room. You look at Sean McVay, he was hired, he barely had pubes. I mean, the guy was like 30 years old, you were 30 years old.
Yeah.
And he just had a grasp on that locker room, whereas back in the day, if you were 55 and you were hired as a head coach, you were young.
Yeah.
It was a different time. And I think I experienced it where a lot of these coaches, the older coaches, lost touch with the younger players.
Yeah.
And when you lose the locker room like that, it's not good. And I think these young guys are coming in, not only they know the game, they know the analytics of the game, but you can also gravitate towards those younger guys and communicate with them better than these older guys can.
Well, Travis is back to, besides busting my grapes, he's got a comment. Great win by the Riders. Here's the question, fellas. Does the CFL continue to exist if the Eskimos/Elks don't start to compete? So we're going to talk about this here. We'll do this and then get back to the Rider game. So the Elks lost again today, 20-14 to the Ottawa Redblacks. You don't jump on kickers, but I'm going to jump on kickers. Boris Beatty should have been sacked after last week's game, along with Chris Jones. That was just brutal. It looked like, now, listen, I don't want to read into body language, and maybe that was his mask to kind of dismiss his angst or whatever over it, but he was smiling on the bench. And he missed the 31-yard chippy last week. He missed 3 today. He's a high-paid kicker. I'd send his ass on a dinner on Delta. He'd be gone.
Yeah, it's tough because that was probably one of their bigger signings this offseason. I mean, I know Chris Jones for a couple of years now. I know that Chris Jones loved the guy before he played for him. He was always trying to go after Boris Beatty. He has so much respect for the big leg and the kickoffs and everything. He thought he could change the game. Going 4 for 7 tonight, it's pretty, going 4 for 7 and losing by 6 for a team that hasn't won a game all year. It's tough. It's difficult. You say it's a Canadian position, so you don't have a lot of deep guys to go to. You don't have a lot of guys to look at, but for a guy that's probably making $150 a year, you got to have those kicks. Especially in the situation they're in right now. As you said, I'm never going to bag on the kickers. I still love the guy, but it's tough. It's tough.
Well, I'm not saying he's not a professional kicker. I've never kicked a field goal. I'm just saying when you're like you have cost your team 2 games now. Like they had a chance to win the game last week, and they had a chance to at least send it to overtime if you make those field goals. Now, after the game, this is interesting. After that game, and now there's a little frustration, but for the second time, McLeod Bethel Thompson's bitch, and he said to Claire Hanna, he called up the CFL schedule saying it's a travesty and disgusting given Edmonton and Ottawa were playing with 4 days rest. You couldn't add 2 days to it? How many season-ending injuries did we and that team across the sideline from us have tonight? He says he has to protect his brothers. He doesn't care if he gets fined. So you're a business owner too. You're in behind the scenes on the business side with TV and everything like that. How do you feel about 4 days, 5 days rest for teams, especially in a 9-team league?
I see both sides of it. I was in the NFL and I started playing Thursday night games, and the guys hated it. I saw those guys. You see a guy like a running back or something, a linebacker, D lineman. They play a game on Sunday. They're not ready to go on Thursday. They're not even close to ready to go on Thursday. They're not even feeling good until Saturday morning. And so that's tough. But at the same time, we're in the CFL. It's like we got a 9-team league. We're going to have some bad scheduling. We're not playing every team is not going to play on Sunday afternoon at 1:00. We have Thursday night games. We have Friday night games. We have Saturday. We play almost every night of the week. And that's just the way it is. And that's the way it's been for a very long time. And that's just the CFL. So, yeah, it's rough. It pisses me off sometimes when these Americans come and complain about our game. But with that being said, I see both sides.
So I do to follow up on what Travis was saying. We do need to see, like, the league is better when Edmonton is better. It's like you want the Yankees and Red Sox to be better. You want the Lakers to be better. You want the Dodgers to be better. You want the evil empire, the Edmonton Elks or Eskimos, to be better. It will be. The league does need them to be better. But let me ask you this: you were there. Are fans staying away because of the name? I personally didn't. I'm white, so you can't comment that way. But I don't like, people are pissed off. They changed the name.
As you said, we're both Caucasian men. It's hard to comment on that, but there was rumblings in the town that people didn't like that. People didn't like that they changed the name. I think it has more to do with not winning and losing whatever it was, 20-some, 30-some home games in a row over 4 years.
Do you think if they go back, but how about they do this? How about they go back? They have the EE. How about they ditch the stupid Elks because it's a dumb name? And how about they go with Edmonton-esques? Edmonton-esques. It keeps some of their heritage.
I own I'm one of the owners of the High A affiliate of the Cleveland Guardians. Mm-hmm. And there's people that won't even come and watch the minor league team because they changed the name from the other word until the Guardians. People are still angry about that in Cleveland and the area. So I think I've dealt with this, and I know that people don't like it. But as you said, it's hard for me to comment on. It's hard for me to take a big stance on it. And I think that the bigger problem is they've been a bad team for 4 years. I mean, I remember the first time around when I played in the CFL 04-05, they had 40,000 every game, 40,000 plus. They were making money hand over fist because every other team had 25,000 a game. They had 40,000 every single game. And I was playing last year or 2 years ago in 2022. I was playing games in front of 5,000 people in a 60,000 seat arena or stadium. And it was like, these guys aren't the Edmonton Eskimos, Edmonton Elks, whatever. They're not the Edmonton Football Club anymore. There's no Warren Moon. There's no Gizmo Williams. There's no Hank Olisic. It was just like the people gave up on them, and it was sad to see. You're right. I think it's more than just the name. It's winning. People, if they're going to spend $50-$60, if they're going to invest 3 hours, drive through traffic in Edmonton, not Regina, they want to see a winner. And it's just like here in Regina. If you put a winning product on the field that's entertaining, people will drive from PA, Calgary. They're going to drive. They're going to do it if you win. Winning is the best marketing, right? You can have a row full of toilets like you did at baseball. We'll get into that in a second. But if you don't win, you're not going to sell those things. The best marketing ingredient is winning. Absolutely, especially in a league like the CFL where ticket sales drives your revenue more than anything. And you got to win football games. You got to put on an entertaining product. And when you start to go down the hole, like Edmonton's gone down the hole in the last 5 years, when people go to the games and they're like, they're not going to be entertained. They're not going to be competitive. You're playing in a freaking stadium with 63,000 empty seats. Mm-hmm. It's hard to watch. It's hard to get excited.
Okay, so let's go back to Mueller for a second before we go to a break here. Mark Mueller, besides knowing football, the guy hung around Ron Lancaster when he was 15 in Hamilton, okay? He's been around it. He knows it. His uncle's coached and everything like that. What makes him, just talk about his demeanor from your perspective. What makes him good? What makes him a good coach? What makes him relatable to players? Because I was at a practice when Shea Patterson was taken over. Mm-hmm. And it was the first practice after they found out Trevor Harris would be done. And he lit in on day one. He lit into his guys and he said, Jesus Christ, wake the fuck up. He goes, do it again. And he was yelling at them and he was tearing a strip off them. So he's not he's a good old boy. He likes to have a beer, but he's going to get your fist if he has to.
He's one of the most confident guys I've ever been around in my life. He could be in a room with Jesus, Moses, and God and flip them all off at the same time and make a joke at the same time. They'd all love him by the end of dinner. He's just that kind of guy, whereas you can't be in a room with him for 10 minutes. He might tear a strip off you. By the time you walk out the door, you're probably going to hug him. He's just that kind of guy, one of the funniest guys I've ever been around in my life, and just a football mind, but just getting back to his personality, he's such a great guy. There's no way you can not like him, and there's no way you can't respect him. It's probably a more important thing. He has the pedigree. He has all that. But at the same time, you're just going to respect him for who he is and not just all that background that he brings to the table.
Let's get to our second sponsor here, and then I'm going to come back and we'll get more into this game. John Ryan, Super Bowl champ, only Saskatchewan kid to do it, played for the Bombers, Elks, Riders, Sheldon Williams, the Rams, you name it. And he's not just a kicker, he's an athlete. Let's get to our next sponsor. Yeah, this is the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show. Ward Tirecraft, 101 Dude in the app. You go see Michael Barth and the gang. Tire and brake needs. Ask about their payment plans. We know inflation, everything going up. It's not easy to keep the vehicles on the road, but you need the rubber. You need the tires, and they've got a great payment plan for you. Also, your braking needs there. 101 Dudney Avenue, Ward Tirecraft with John Ryan. I'm Michael Ball. All right, so let's talk about, man, if you looked up football player in the dictionary, a picture of Roland Milligan would be there. He is the best defensive player in the CFL right now. Right now, week 7, you can't get a better, because he's also leading his team in special teams tackles.
Well, that's the thing I love about him. He has five interceptions so far in 6 games.
4.
Like
he almost
4.
got his. He
almost had his 5th tonight.
Right.
And then he has he plays the game he played tonight, and he runs down and has 2 tackles on special teams. Which as a punter, as a guy who respects those guys so much, I mean, most of those guys, they want to get off the field on second down, and he's still out there running down on punt team, running down on these coverage units, making tackles. It just, you have so much respect. You garner so much respect in the locker room for guys like that, and those are just like real football players to me. And I have nothing but respect for that guy, and I love watching him play.
Let's talk about the special teams coaches for a second. Kent Majuri does a great job. He learned from Craig Dickinson, and we can talk about whether Craig Dickinson is a great head coach or not, but Craig Dickinson is one of the best special teams minds that's ever been in this game, and he taught Kent Majuri what to do. Kent Majuri is a great special teams coach, and Mike Miller over on the other side taking over, still probably getting some help from Mike O'Shea, who's one of the best of all time himself. Let's start with Majuri. And just from what you know of Kent Majuri, you know, what a great job he does. It's not easy being the special teams coach and getting a guy like Roland Milligan and some of these guys to buy in. That's why I wonder why more special teams coaches don't get head coaching jobs. Take the Craig Dickinson, quit being prisoners of the moment the last 2 years. He wasn't bad the first 2 years as a head coach. Bob Dice is his team trending in the right direction. Because, John, they got to bring everybody together, for not a glamorous job.
When you look at a special teams coach, you look at an offense coordinator, defense coordinator, they're working with 20 guys, 25 guys. You look at a special teams coach, he's working with like 50 guys. He's working with the whole team. Every single guy on that roster, he needs to know. He needs to know their strengths, he needs to know their weaknesses. Everything from freaking field goal team to punt return to kickoff. He needs to know all those guys. He's dealing with 50 plus guys every single day. And so you see a guy like Kent, who coached me. He was the assistant when I was there. Yeah. And I couldn't wait for that guy to get a head job because he was so good. And I know that he was just kind of waiting behind Dickey to get that head job. And I'm so glad he did, because what we've seen so far in the special teams in Saskatchewan is really making that team good. And I know in the NFL, they say, special teams is a third of the game. Let's be honest. It's not.
It's not.
It's not. In the CFL, it is. It truly is. When you're playing 3-down football, it's as close to a third of the game as you can get. They can literally change the game, and that's what we're seeing right now with the Riders. The punter's punting great, the kicker's kicking great, the coverage units are great, returning Super Mario's back there. I mean, it's fun to watch right now, and I think that's going to make the difference come playoff time.
What about Mike Miller, just removed from the game and now a coach? Is there difficulties in that with getting respect from players who are still on the roster from when he was playing?
Maybe with some guys, not with Mike Miller. Not with Mike Miller. Mike Miller was one of the most respected players I've ever played against, that I've ever heard of playing against in the CFL. Every single guy on that roster, whether it be, the starting quarterback, Willie Jefferson, everyone thought that guy was an absolute stud. Some teams are going to go, he's a special teams player. Not around there. Mike Miller was an absolute stud. They loved him. They respected him. So him to step in right from playing, right into the head job, it's a big jump. I've never seen it, I don't think, before, but he's done an outstanding job. And I think just because those guys all have so much respect for him.
Okay, we got to talk about this. So I, ever since they took those stupid chips out of the football, the kicker, like Castillo sucked in the first week, then he bitched about it, got fined by Randy Ambrosie, which was a joke. All the kickers.
It was Randy Ambrosie, so.
Yeah, okay, exactly. But anyway, so ever since then, he's been kicking the stuffing out of the football. Yes, he missed a 61-yarder today, but he kicked us back-to-back weeks, 57-yard daggers in Winnipeg, in Saskatchewan, and back-to-back weeks. Here are my top 5 field goal kickers or place kickers, okay, in the CFL. I have Rene Paredes at 1. I have Sean White at 2. He kicks half his games indoors if they have the roof closed. So okay, that's kind of why I give Rene the heads up there. Castillo, I have 3. Lothar, I have 4, and Lewis Ward 5. Even though Lewis Ward's one of the most accurate kickers in CFL history since he's been playing. Okay, the small Ottawa kicker. But let's talk about the 2 kickers tonight. Castillo kicks a 57-yard field goal off the floor. He didn't use a tee. Talk about that.
He's a American trained guy. Doesn't like to use a tee. Kicks off the ground. I had the honor of playing with him in Edmonton for a year or for half a year, and absolutely love the guy. We met up this offseason together out in Texas. Just absolutely. We talk almost every day, and to see what he did. He talked to me after the chips were in the ball, and that was a terrible thing for the kickers. And I could go on for that for an hour, how terrible science doesn't work out for that. But he missed those first 2 kicks, and I texted him right away. I said, you're focused, you're pissed off, you're about to go on a streak. And he hit his next 15 kicks, and he's like, yeah, you're freaking right. And he's just been so good. I know he's missed 3 or 4 now, but I mean, he missed with 2 with the chip ball and 1 from 61 yards. He's hit a 60-yarder, 2 57-yarders. But more than anything, it just shows how good these kickers in the CFL are. I mean, they're freaky good. When you look at their numbers, they're right there with NFL guys. They're right there. Those first to say that Lewis Ward, who's probably a career 90% kicker, is number 5 out of 9.
Well, that's my opinion.
Ridiculous. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong. But those first four guys are all interchangeable week to week. But how they are. And if you have that kind of talent, it reminds me back in the 90s when we had, Dave Ridgway and McLaughlin and Tony Martino and Carlos Baldwin and
Trevor Tenner, Troy Westwood.
Troy Westwood. When we had these guys, it was incredible. And I think we're on that right now. When we have these guys that are so good, any one of them, you could put them in an NFL game right now, any one of them, and they'd be fine.
So why don't we see more of them make the NFL? Like, why don't we see the Brett Lothars, the Castillos, the Liram Haralahus, those kind of guys make the? You'll see Maher or whatever make it, but you don't see a lot of guys make it. Yeah. Why is that?
I think a lot of it happens because we don't get a lot. Almost every guy you just mentioned played Canadian college football.
Yeah,
and when we come out of Canadian college football, we have no scouting from the NFL. And a lot of us come out of Canadian college football at 23, 24. We're not 22 like these American guys. So we have to prove ourselves in Canada at 25, 26. We get noticed. Now we're trying to make the NFL at 27, 28. And we're competing against guys that are 22 who have an American pedigree, all this stuff. And then it's tough to do it. I think that's the biggest thing. I was fortunate enough to be so young when I went to the NFL. I played 2 years in the CFL, but I was still the same age as a senior coming out of a U.S. college at only 24. And I had that. I was fortunate like that, but I think that's the biggest thing is they're like, well, this guy hasn't proven himself in the NFL game. He's 28, and there's this guy 22 who just kicked at Alabama. I trust him before I trust this guy. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing.
You're bringing up a good point, and it ties into something I wanted to talk about. I had written down here in my sheet, John Ryan. The beauty of this league, other than it's a mom and pop league and anybody sitting in those stands can pretty well relate with all the players. There's CEOs sitting in those stands making more than anybody on that field, right? You don't see that in the NFL in a lot of cases, right? So lawyers, doctors, whoever. So you kind of feel like you can relate to these guys. But where I'm going with this is the other good thing about this league is it's a second chance league. I look at this Pimpleton guy on Ottawa, Khalil Pimpleton, 83, Central Michigan guy, making catches, big game in Edmonton. He dropped a sure touchdown today, but he's a guy that he wouldn't be playing in the NFL. Undersized. We're not going to look at him. And then today, a Joe. He's a guy that's came out in 2020 out of Edmonton. Brooks, Alberta, went to Edmonton, goes to Clemson, kind of messes up UCF and ends up his college career in JUCO. He could have another year of college, but he came out, wanted to support his family, didn't do well at the combine, kind of went through the motions, 4.91, which you can say, hey, I mean, nobody asked Jason Claremont what he ran, and I saw him catch every pass. But it also shows on the other side that I'm not working out.
He ran a 4.66, but go ahead.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He did. He did, but where I'm going with this, nobody really gives a shit about that, except for it shows you're not taking things seriously. So I would say, hey, it's a 7th round guy. They got him in the 7th round. Could have some character issues. What am I going to get? But I'll tell you what, man. He's having fun out there. He's got his head screwed on straight. Kean Schaefer-Baker goes down with what looks like a shoulder injury. He left with a sling. Kid had 110 yards tonight. It's a second chance league.
In the second half.
It's a second chance league, right?
It's a second chance league, and we've seen it over and over and over again. The guys that have jumped from the NFL or from the CFL to the NFL, or guys that just didn't make it in the NFL. Guys like Milt Stegall. If there was no CFL, no one would have heard of Milt Stegall. He would have been in the practice squad a couple years in the NFL, and then nothing.
Cool.
He becomes one of the greatest receivers we've ever watched on either side of the border. And I think these are the things that make Doug Flutie, Jeff Garcia. I mean, I could go on and on.
Ken Austin and Don Narcisse came to Saskatchewan, to Regina, 2 weeks apart from the NFL when they were let go.
And then you go farther now. You look at a guy like Ray Elgar. Ray Elgar couldn't even get a tryout in the NFL, and he's like one of the greatest receivers to ever play in the CFL.
Yeah,
and it's a guy that So sometimes you look at like, oh well, the NFL is better. Well, in a way, it's not, because the NFL would never give a guy like Ray Elgar a chance. We would not give a guy like Ray Elgar a chance.
Yes.
And look what he did in the CFL, and we got to watch it for 13 years or whatever it was.
Well, I think the legitimacy in the league, and you can talk from a business side, is if I had an extra zero behind some of these guys' paycheck, then all of a sudden they'd go from, he's not good enough to, wow, he just pulled up a Ferrari. You know what I mean?
I agree with you 100%. So, that's, it, Ballsy. You and I are on the same page. Been fans of the Canadian football game, the league for forever. And it's, it's not always appreciated. For some people, especially the Americans, but I think it really goes to show you when a guy like Vince Young, a guy like Johnny Manziel, who's going to come here and absolutely rip apart our league and can barely make a roster or not make a roster, it shows how good football here is. Well,
and there you go. So you mentioned this isn't too big for Shea Patterson, and it's not, because he played at the big house, 110,000. But. And I had a guy from Purelator, a courier guy in my neighborhood, stop me. He goes, Ballsy, have you cooled your jets on Patterson? Are you giving him some love now? Well, after the first game, it wasn't that I didn't give him love, but my point was, you're going to tell me that I watched Cameron Dukes and Shea Patterson look very pedestrian in that first matchup with Toronto and Saskatchewan, and you're going to tell me that is better than, why doesn't Mason Nias? Why doesn't Andrew Buckley? Why doesn't Sinagra? Why don't they get a chance? Because they wouldn't do any worse than what I saw on the field. And it's not like Shea Patterson lit it up tonight. He's got great athleticism. I think he does have a bright future. My point is it's kind of, imagine, Ryan, you played hockey. Imagine this. You are a goalie and your dad, Bob, mom's name, Bob and Barb, right? They put you through hockey, and you're the goalie. Yep. You're the goalie, and you're good here, and you're good here, and you're good here. But when you get past junior hockey, it's like, hey, man, listen, you're going to have to switch to defense, or you're going to have to be a forward, because no Canadian can be a goalie at the next level. I'm sorry you spent all that money on camps and stuff, but there's no way you can be a goalie. Like, I think it's absolutely fucking ridiculous that we are not looking at them at the combine with a legitimate chance to be a quarterback in this league. As a businessman, how many jerseys could you sell having Nias, Sinagra, whoever on the back of the jersey, just in the stands?
Thousands. I agree with you. I think one of the biggest shames is a guy playing football for me. You too, growing up playing in Regina. Probably playing like me, touch football, then Regina minor or RMF football, then high school. I wanted to be a punter because that's the only way I think I could ever make it to the next level.
Yeah.
Think of these quarterbacks. It's like, well, that's going to be fun for you, but there's no dream for you at the end. There's no dream for an outside receiver at the end. You know what I mean? I hate that for Canadian football players. I want guys to be able to be a Canadian quarterback and be like, after I go to college, then I'm going to go to the CFL and play professional football. Mm-hmm. Maybe you will, maybe you won't, but there's a chance. And right now there's no chance. I mean, there's Nathan York. there was a guy back in my day from Queens, Dennis. I forget what his name is, Dennison.
Dennis.
But
right? Yeah,
yes, Daryl Leeson had a cup of tea with the Bombers, but there's no real end of the rainbow for these guys, and I hate that. And I think there should be more attention to being like, well, why isn't the third quarterback just a Canadian?
Yeah.
Or just not even a third quarterback. Just one quarterback has to be Canadian. I mean, it just
and when they're on the roster, they're Canadian. They're just not because the quarterbacks are international positions. Now I don't know if they've changed that rule, but if a guy's a Canadian as a quarterback, he should be a Canadian on the roster. He should count. He should count.
Sure.
He should count as
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go a little off base right now.
Yeah,
I just got a text message. Got a text message on my phone here.
Yeah.
I want to say congratulations to the Billings Outlaws today.
Okay.
The Arena Football League champions. They beat the Albany Firebirds tonight. And I just got a text message from their starting quarterback, Isaac Harker.
Isaac Harker. Yeah.
Isaac Harker just won Arena Bowl 33 as a starting quarterback. And I watched the game. It was in New Jersey. It was pretty cool. I messaged him. I talked to him right after the game. Very happy for him. And so it shows, as we're talking about, there's football all over the world right now.
I think did they play that in a mall? They were talking about playing that in a mall.
They played it in a mall.
Yeah, they played it in a mall
in New Jersey.
In a mall.
It was a little different, but yeah, they played in a mall.
Honey, let's go to the food court at halftime. That is hilarious. Hey,
I don't know if you can see it on my phone there. That was a picture of them playing in a mall.
That is hilarious, man.
I watched the game, and Isaac Harker, one of the great teammates that I had. I still remember him back in 2019 when we win the last game of the year to finish first place, get a bye to the playoffs. He got it done for us. His first start as a pro. I'll always remember him for that. And then tonight, winning the Arena Bowl 33. Congratulations to him.
Awesome, man. I'm going to come back and ask you about that tied into today's game. But first, we'll get to another one of our great sponsors here on Ballsy. Our balls are bigger. Yeah, that's our sponsor, Mr. D, Stats, Cocktails, and Dreams. Let me get our screen up here. Mr. D, Stats, Cocktails, and Dreams, and Cravings, 1832 Vic Avenue East. They give tickets away at every home game and a jersey for all the away games that you will watch, like the one coming up here Thursday in Montreal against the Alouettes. And I'll tell you what, John, that is going to be a slobber knocker in terms of defenses. Who's got the better defense right now, Montreal or Saskatchewan? I'd give the edge to Sask right now.
You know what? I give the edge to Saskatchewan right now. I like Montreal just because they're at home. You know, they don't have the thundering crowds they used to have in the mid O's when Pringle was there and all those guys. Calvillo was there. It's not quite the same, but the Riders are on the road. But I mean, I'm looking forward to this game. I mean, there's so many great storylines from Cody to the defenses. I mean, I'm looking forward to this game a lot.
Yeah, so you're bringing up Cody, and you brought up Harker. So if we rewind to 2019, when Simone Lawrence tried to take Zach Collaros' life with that hit, okay?
Yeah.
People can stick up for him. That was bullshit. The guy is a cheap shot artist, and he tried to end Zach Collaros' life, okay? So Cody Fajardo comes in and he looked like shit. He looked like he was scared. He looked like he didn't know what he was doing. Isaac Harker actually looked better in that game, but they decided to go with Cody. They put a game plan around him and Cody took off. I'm not saying Patterson's going to take off, but that's why I have some hope for this kid, because I see some of Cody in Shea Patterson in terms of maybe if we let this thing develop.
100%. I think you just nailed it. That's what I saw too. You know, I see a lot of shades of Cody in him. I think he can be a good quarterback in this league. I don't think it's going to happen right away, as I said before, but I think that he can come in and play well. And also going back to that game against Hamilton, Isaac did play better. I mean, Cody went down. We're down to our third quarterback. Isaac, we don't even heard of the kid. He came from the School of the Mines. Yeah, we don't even heard of that school.
Yeah, that's right.
School of the Mines.
Yes.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, exactly.
And that almost led us to a victory. But I do see some of the same things with Patterson with Cody. So I feel very good about him. He has that pedigree. He's been in big games before. I like him.
Let's talk about a great football play, Matt. A couple of great football plays that are inside the game. We see all the glitz and glamour. Brady Oliveira is a tough-nosed running back. He and Ouellette, they look to be the hammer, not the nail. They want to initiate contact. But I don't know if you picked it up on that play. Zach Clark's deep in his own zone. Brady Oliveira steps up and blocks the outside edge rusher and just does a great job. That's a football play that your quarterback, when he sees it on film, is going to say, "Thanks, man, for helping me out," because he prevented Zach Clark from getting killed.
It's one of those plays that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. You don't get a stat for that. There's no rushing yards behind. There's not a touchdown behind that. But tomorrow when they're watching film, he's gonna give him an attaboy. Thank you for protecting me like that. And that's just a sign of a good football player. The awareness, doing your job correctly, and just playing football like that. And that's why I really like Ouellette and I like Oliveira is that they just play the game right. And I think that as you said earlier, some people might be bitching a little bit about Ouellette in Saskatchewan, but you're wrong. You're just wrong because the guy's playing the game right. He's a great locker room guy, and he's a great player, and he's doing things right on the field, even though they might not always show up in rushing yards or reception yards or touchdowns. The things that he's doing on the field are right.
Sometimes though, it's like when you it's like power plays in hockey. It's not how many power goals you get, it's when you get them. Sometimes it's not how many yards you get, it's how and when you get those yards, right? As a running back.
Oh, well, 100%. It's I played with Marshawn Lynch, who was the king of 1 yard run, 2 yard run, 1 yard run, 2 yard run, 1 yard run, 34 yards up the middle. And you remember those 34 yards. He was one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game, and he had a flair for the dramatic at the right times, and those are what you remember. You don't remember those 1 and 2 yard runs, but you remember when he had the game was on him and he got it done.
So at this point, back to the kicking for a second. At this point, I have Lothar as my 4th ranked kicker. Now he generally gets better as the season goes on, and that's been his MO. Why I put him ahead of Ward, who's got more accuracy, is Brett Lothar is not scared to make a tackle. You see when he misses a field goal, when there's a guy who gets past that first wave, Brett Lothar, he's there again today to angle a guy into his bench. Like he's one of those kickers that isn't a pylon.
Lewis Ward's a great kicker. He's very accurate. He's been amazing for 5 or 6 years now. Brett Lothar has a bigger leg. And as you said, you and I, we've talked about this probably 1,000 times together, not on radio or camera. That Brett Lothar's not a kicker. He's an athlete that happens to be able to kick really well. He's a hockey player, to be honest with you. The guy's never played soccer in his life. He's not doing some of these things that drives us crazy about some kickers. The guy's just an athlete who happens to be able to kick really, really well. And I respect that a lot. And as you said, he's not scared to get his nose in there. I don't want to, shit on the other kickers that aren't like that. And I think it's definitely trending towards more athletic kickers and punters as you've seen over the last 20 years. And I respect that. But
let's be honest. We joke about kickers because you guys punt balls and you're not in tackling drills, but hardly anybody's in tackling drills anymore. You guys are athletes. You're a great athlete. Like you are great athletes. Like I joke, you're a kicker, but John Ryan was an outstanding receiver. He played lacrosse. He played hockey. A lot of these guys have great backgrounds. Like Brett Lothar was a hockey player.
A really good hockey player. Could have played hockey at St. Mary's. He was a phenomenal hockey player.
Yeah. Steve asks, who's tougher, Trump or running backs? We'll leave the politics out of it.
Yeah, let's leave that alone over here. I actually live in the U.S. I can't talk about that.
Yeah. How about this? Jim, he says, I watched that play again. If it wasn't the end of the game, nobody would have said a word. It was a bullshit play by Biggie, but it wasn't really that dirty. So I don't disagree. He threw him down. He might get a $250 fine, but that's some on Patterson too. You got to know the game. You got to know, hey man, just get down. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's all about timing. It's the end of the game. It's all, obviously the game was over. The game was done. So it's always going to be blown up. And Tim right here says, Jamie Borum was one of my all-time favorite punters. Jamie Borum was maybe the best tackling punter I've ever seen in my life. He also played free safety for Manitoba, Saskatchewan, UBC. He played against him in college, played against him in the CFL. great punter, great kicker, and he laid guys out in the CFL.
And he's a
he
coach.
Plays for the Saskatchewan Rough Riders.
Yes, and he's
coach now. Where's he coaching now?
Coach at Prince George Kodiaks. The team president is Craig Briere, former Ram.
Right.
And Chris Zark is the offensive coordinator. So they got a junior football.
I was not away, but
they got a junior.
Jamie Borum was a phenomenal CIAU, U Sport, whatever they call it now, athlete. And I love that guy. It was always fun to play against him.
Boy, they found a good one, I think, in the CJ Avery 35, the linebacker. He bring the wood on that one play against Brady Oliveira. I'll tell you what, if you want, I got a great text here from Ryan Hall who said he couldn't find the link to chime in, but he sent a good long text, and I want to read it here. He said, my thoughts, pro football is not life, it's entertainment, and tonight's game was very entertaining despite not lighting up the scoreboard. Physical, intense, exciting plays. Win or lose, it was fun to watch. Running game looked improved. D kept Caleros unsettled. The team plays hard. Great effort, and this is the one part I wanted to get to. Skill play by Thurman. Now, I picked Jameer Thurman as my defensive player of the year in the CFL. So far, check this out, JR.
You've done well so far. I know.
I have Vernon Adams. I've had Vernon Adams Jr. as my MOP, and he's on fire. I had my outstanding Canadian as Ben Hladik. He's at the top of the Canadian tackling charts, although you'd say Justin McInnes is a pretty good shot right now. I have Jameer Thurman as my outstanding defensive player in the CFL. Right now, I'd say it's Milligan. But how about that play by Thurman? Running from behind when Dembski got that head of steam finally and he bats the ball out. That is the kind, like this defense is a championship defense. So if you're a Rider fan, you got to be salivating when Trevor Harris comes back.
That's just really good football. When you knock that ball out of there, it's just really good football. You know what I mean? And who wrote that text? I'm sorry, I missed the name off the top.
That was Ryan Hall. Old Ryan.
Everything he just said there is really spot on. Is a lot of time people see a 19-9 game, especially in CFL, and they're like, "Oh, that was a boring game." I was like, "Absolutely the F not." It was a great ball game, and when you see some of the skill, you see some of the plays by all the guys that we've mentioned tonight. It was a really well played football game, and it was just it was entertaining to watch. I know some people want a 43-40 game every Friday night, but they're not going to get it. And it was I was entertained tonight, Ballsy.
Me too.
Is what I can say. I thought it was a great, well played football game. I saw stars play well. I saw the guys I wanted to see play well. It was entertaining.
It was infectious too. It's infectious because look at a guy like Nelson Lacombo. He's a skilled guy. He's not a banger. He even threw a big hit over the middle there and did it cleanly in today's football where he took his head out of the equation. Mm-hmm. Remember that? I think it was on Dembski, if I'm not mistaken. So a really good job. But I do want to get to something else when I come back on the other side of this sponsor break. Hang on for a second. Yeah, thanks to Super Squeeze District Brewing, their seltzers. They've got passion fruit lime and the mango lime, which I have right here. I'm here with John Ryan for a few more minutes, and then I'll let him. I know you're watching a movie tonight. What are you doing? You gonna just drink some more cheap bourbon or what?
I'm going to bed, man. It's 10:30. Yeah. I'm usually in bed by about 9:30. So this is, I mean, it's 10:30. It's still like 30 degrees here.
Same thing here, dude. It's beautiful here. And we're an hour later than you, so shut up, quit whining. And you're like 12 years younger.
I don't have a job. I can sleep until noon tomorrow.
Well, I don't know if you call this a job for me either, but hey, listen, I got to bring this up, man. I know the saying is true. Defense wins championships. And if that is true, the Riders are onto something here. But they say offense sells tickets. But can we let these guys play defense? That was awful officiating tonight. There were two pass interferences against the Bombers and one against the Riders. That was not pass interference. And why the fuck do we have instant replay when you can't get it right? That was a fumble. And the Bombers got job there, and Mike O'Shea lost his challenge. I'm watching this game without green and white goggles for a change, and that was a fumble. That was a catch and a fumble by Kean Schaefer-Baker, and they still got it wrong on instant replay.
I think we saw a couple pass interferences calls today. The not only were they bad, like the one against the Rider or against Winnipeg, not only was it bad, but the ball was completely uncatchable. On top of that, the guy was just at the top of his route and barely. I mean, that kind of contact happens on every play in football.
Yes,
it's not a penalty. And Ballsy, you and I are receivers.
Yes,
you and I played receivers, so we always side with the receivers.
Yes,
except for this. I mean, this is not. I mean, it was a couple really, really bad calls tonight. That was. You start to wonder what they're even freaking looking at.
Yes. What are you looking at?
And these kind of a pass interference call, if you look at it, pass interference call is a 25-yard or 30-yard penalty. That changes the game.
Yes.
And it gave
the Riders 3 points. It gave the Riders 3 points on that Ford pass interference on the sidelines. That was not pass interference. And the one you're talking about, the overthrow, Evan Holm of the Bombers is allowed his space. He's allowed his space. Now, Milligan had a great bat down that I thought was going to be a pass interference when they went deep to Wilson, but Wilson screwed up. He should have came back to the ball. He just stood there and didn't fight for the ball. If he fights for the ball, there's pass interference. That was kind of a rookie move on his behalf, but can we just let them play defense? Like the rules are already against a defense.
And you and I have talked this before about comparing them to NHL refs, where they're constantly talking to the players, letting them play, like being in constant contact with them, and it's just bad. You break up the momentum of the game, you break up the whole game, and it's hard to watch sometimes. And they start calling terrible freaking calls like that, and it's awful. And I think Steven here says about the French referee. My wife has never watched CFL until she watched me play in 2019. She goes, "Who's that French referee? I hate him." I go, "Yep, you're right."
That's funny, man. Hey, Steve wants to know too. Do we ever see Jones in the league ever again? Chris Jones?
No.
I don't think so either. I
know that when I was with him in 2022, he had come back, and he was like, I didn't know if I was going to come back or not. I was kind of ready to walk away from the game, kind of ready to retire. I think what Ballsy, he's probably 64, 65.
Yeah, no, he's not. No, he's not. He's like 58, 59.
Really?
He looks like
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he looks old, but every coach looks old if you see the hours they put in.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know he was kind of talking about walking away from the game back then, and whether or not he was going to come back. And I just think that,
57. He's going to be 58. He's 57.
Really? Wow. I'm sorry.
So he's a guy. If he comes back to the league, it'll only be as a head coach. He's not going to, or a GM, but not both. And he won't come back as a coordinator. That's how I feel.
No, he won't. He has to be a head coach or a GM. I played for him in 2022. I wasn't going to play for him because I had heard some things. So I went to Hamilton, and he really wanted me to play for him. And I was like, I'm going to go to Hamilton. He went and traded for me out of Hamilton, brought me over to Edmonton, and I was so thankful that he did that because that guy, I haven't messaged him yet because I wanted the smoke to clear a little bit, but he is a phenomenal coach, and I know he gets a bad rap for some of the things he does that some people think he does, but he's a little bit out there, but a great guy, a great coach. And I played professional football for 19 years. He's one of the best coaches I ever played for, and I would have done anything for that guy, and he would have done anything for me. And there's not very many coaches you can say that about. So I know that people want to talk shit about Chris Jones. Haven't been in the trenches with him. You haven't been in there with him, and I would that's a man I would do anything for. I'd run through a brick wall for that guy, and I only played for him for 10 weeks.
And you're a high man of character, so that speaks to that for sure.
I absolutely love that man. I think he's a great coach. It's unfortunate what happens, but he was in a bad situation. But
I think at this point of his life, correct me if I'm wrong. You could help me out with this. I think he is. He enjoys the scouting more than he does the coaching, I think, now. I think he likes to find the talent, and I think he'd be good at that. Like, I think he'd be like a good Roy Shivers type to bring in a bunch of guys. That's what I think he'd be really good at.
I agree with you 100%. The day after I retired, the last game I ever played, I played for him. The day after I retired, I went into his office. I go, you going to take a little time off? He's like, no. He opened this big whiteboard across the wall. He goes, I'm going to Orlando, then to Atlanta, then to here, then to Ohio, then here. I'm here, blah, blah, till for the next 3 months, I'm looking at football players. He loved it. He absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And when I saw that and I saw his character, I was like, this guy should be an NFL scout or a CFL scout, whatever. But he just loves watching ball. So
Yeah.
I could see something like that happening for him.
Jim again, he goes by Gene, but he's my buddy Jim. He says he respects John Ryan. So there you go. If John Ryan says he's good, then he is good. Okay, let's get to a couple more things before I let you go. Back to the field goal for a second, okay? He hits from 57. Now he's lining up from 61. You've got Mario Welford at the other end, and you got fat guys blocking for you. You better make this field goal, or you could be in trouble. And the Bombers caught a break because he ran into the official under the goalpost, which kind of slowed him up. At any point, do you say to your special teams coordinator, or you as the holder go to the kicker, say, "Are you sure about this? Maybe we should punt the ball." Like, I don't know if I don't want to take your thunder, but like, what are we doing here? Do you know what I mean?
When I was younger, I was always like, "Yeah, we got to kick it. Let's go." And now the more I know what football is, like, this is one of the biggest disadvantages in the most disadvantaged play in all of CFL football is when we're kicking a field goal and they have some of the greatest athletes in the world in the field, and we have a 300-pound men. They're not great athletes, but they're not going to get out there and cover the field like we want them to. It's a huge disadvantage on that play. It's one of the biggest disadvantages in all of football, all of Canadian football. So you have to take that into account. But if you have guys that can cover it, you hit a punt, you hit into the end zone, the ball comes up to the 40 now. You try a 61 field goal, you miss it. I think the ball came up to the 30.
Yeah.
So really it's not a bad opportunity. But
looks like he got under the ball too much when he kicked that one.
I haven't talked to him yet. He'll probably text me tomorrow bitching about it. But yeah, he didn't hit it right. I mean, I think the ball landed about the 5-yard line, which is not what Sergio does. And he was on that crazy streak there. But 61's a hell of a kick, but he just didn't hit it right.
57's a hell of a kick, and he would have been good from 61 and the one he hit. Here's what I want to ask you as a punter. We kind of touched on it last time you were up. Riders lined up once again for an onside punt where they had the two guys behind. So what is your mentality as the punter? And then how does that change the blocking assignments for them and your coverage assignments for you on that end? So we'll start from your perspective and then the coverage and the return there. I'd like to know that.
Well, for me, you want to. It changes what we're going to do. If you want to just punt it normal and see what happens. But on the defensive side, as soon as you see those onside guys, you're basically all rushes are off, all assignments are off. You're covering those guys. It's basically you have all the time in the world to punt the ball because it changes everything as soon as you see those guys back there. A lot of times, as a punter, you're going to hang it up to the right or the left. But once I saw it tonight, I think they were just kind of taking a chance. You're going to try to play it and see what happens if the guy makes a bad move. And honestly, not to be a jerk, but sometimes when there's an American back there, he doesn't quite know what he's doing all the time. He sees an onside guy, he lets the ball bounce a little bit. The ball's there. He doesn't quite know what to do with it all the time. Doesn't realize that a guy can take possession, score a touchdown.
Yeah.
So you just, I think in that situation, when you hit the 50-yard line, you're not going to get a huge return usually. So I think it's a good opportunity to do something like that. And the Riders have done it twice that I've seen so far this year.
And if the guy muffs it, your onside guys can recover. Now the onside guys are outside. They're the outside guys. So then they become the contained guys and nobody gets outside them when they're coming down to cover. Is that generally how it works? Or they're shooting to the ball, or how does that work?
Usually they're shooting to the ball. And then you have your inside guys playing outside.
Okay. That's how it works.
Looping back out is usually how you play it. And basically the guys that are onside have no assignment other than go to the ball. Okay. So that's good. I needed to know that. There's also something else I wanted to get to before I let you go. And it was this. Wally Buono is going into the Hall, the Calgary Stampeders Wall of Fame. You think about the quarterbacks he's developed: Burris, Garcia, Flutie. He helped develop Dickinson. I mean, the list goes on. The list goes on and on. And then the coaches. I mean, there's been Benavides, Tedford, Huffnagel, Dickinson. Like he's got quite the coaching tree. He's definitely the GOAT. Friend of this show. But where I'm going with this, I'm half drunk now. I forgot where I was going with this. No, seriously, Calgary. What was I going to talk about here? Calgary. Wally Buono.
Yeah, no. What was I just drew a blank. Oh, Wally Buono said that if he was commissioner of this league, the first thing you do is look at U.S. expansion. So as a businessman, I'm gonna talk to you about this, okay? That it's a 9-team league. We have the best form of football on the planet. I believe that. We don't have all the bells and whistles. We don't have the TV contracts. Perceptions is they're the best. They've got the top 7 in each on each team, elite athletes. I get it in the NFL, but our game, our rules are the best. Okay, but we need more teams. And I think they basically signaled to you they've closed the door in Atlantic, Canada. If they're not going back to Touchdown Atlantic, that door's shut. Now, it's sold out quickly in Victoria, but John, the appetite for sports in the States is way bigger than Canada. It's a different priority. In Grand Forks, where my son played for the last 4 years, they had an indoor they got the Ralph Engelstad Hockey Arena, which is better than any junior hockey arena in Canada.
Yeah, phenomenal.
They've got an indoor practice facility and an indoor football field just in a little 50,000 seat venue. And some donor, because he wants his daughter to be the starting pitcher of the softball team, just built the stadium outside the football practice field. Okay. So where I'm going with this, they've got money in the States. Should we look at U.S. expansion?
I think we should. I think where it comes, what happened last time when we went to Birmingham and Sacramento and Shreveport in Baltimore, went to the Deep South. And the one thing that I didn't like is it changes the game in that they had no Canadian players on the teams. Right. It was all American players.
Well, how do we get around that?
I'm not sure. And the second thing is that if you watch any NFL game, any college game, a CFL field is 150 yards long.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a field with 15 yards of open space behind every end zone?
No, there isn't.
There's not. But with that being said, they have, there's USL, there's the second level of Major League Soccer. They're building these new stadiums that are, they're, these quick build 20,000 seat stadiums where I think it could happen. But I want to see them expand to Idaho, Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota.
That's what I think.
These places,
Montana,
North Dakota. So these places, if you follow, as you and I do, FCS football or NCAA Division I double or A or whatever they used to call it, these are some of the best football cities in the world for that level.
And this is where our players in the CFL come from. A lot of our players.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year the top 20 teams, like 15 of them were from Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho. They're all from right there. These people are starved for football. And even if they have an FCS team, they're only getting 5 or 6 games at home a year.
Yes.
They would love – and these NFL is never coming to these cities.
Nope, 100%.
XFL is not coming to these cities ever, or UFL.
That's right.
I think there's an opportunity, and the one thing that I want to get around is that ratio rule. Is there a way to play this game where the Canadians are playing, or the Canadian teams are playing the same rules as the Americans? Because I remember in 1995 when the Baltimore Stallions came to Saskatchewan for the Grey Cup, and they had 43 American players on the team and won the Grey Cup, that I didn't think that was right.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a way we could play by the same rules. I don't know how it could happen, but maybe it could.
Well,
why not do that?
Well, I think it's probably I'm not going to get political, but let's be honest. If we were betting your sweet John Ryan money, Donald Trump's probably going to be the president of the United States again, and they are America first for sure. So there would be immigration laws where they wouldn't allow. So that you're right, there would have to be something like that. I don't know how you'd get around it, but there would be, if you wanted to, you could get around it. You could get around it if you wanted.
I think there's a way around, but like Ballsy, like you're what, 50 years old? I'm 42 years old. We've been talking about a 10th team in the CFL since we were born.
Yes.
We've been talking about a 10th Canadian team since we were freaking well born. And it hasn't happened.
Well, do you remember, John?
Where else to grow?
Do you remember, John, when they had that very first preseason game before they did U.S. expansion? They did it in Portland, Oregon, if you remember.
I do remember that.
Yes. And it was wildly popular. And I think, like you said, Oregon, South and North Dakota, Idaho, Montana, where there's no even like, I don't know, New Hampshire, where there's no chance to get an NFL team. Mm-hmm. And I think this league also has to budget for 20,000 fans tops. If you get more, great. If I remember people like, why aren't we building a 45,000 seat Mosaic Stadium? Because of this exactly. They only sold 28,000 tonight. There was 5,000 empty seats, even though it looked great on tape, on TV tonight. You know what I'm saying? I agree with you 100%. There's got to be a way, because that's really, when you want to say the CFL's boring, that's what it is. It's 9 teams. Like, and there's the other thing, okay? Why is Edmonton and Ottawa playing back to back? Break it up. Break it up. What are we doing here? We've got 9 teams.
It's ridiculous. I mean, this is I go back to Randy Ambrosie being the worst commissioner in the history of sports. And these are the type of thing, the Saskatchewan Roughriders playing on Thursday night and then Sunday night when half the fans come from out of town.
Yeah.
You're not respecting the best market in the freaking league. Yeah. Like if you're the commissioner of the league, how do you not see that? And you don't have to, it's not playing favorites. You're playing to the best market in the league. Saskatchewan should play every freaking game on Sunday afternoon, Friday night, Saturday night, because they draw 30,000 fans a night. If Toronto plays on Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, they're going to have 4,000 fans. If they play on Friday night, they're going to have 4,000 fans. It doesn't freaking matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he needs to see that, and he's not seeing that. I mean, this guy is going to – I said it, and I sent you a text message, and I think you read it, and I said, do not say my name, but I'll say it.
I didn't say it.
Randy Ambrosie will be the last commissioner of the CFL if this keeps up, because he's driving this game into the ground, and it's freaking so bad right now at what he's doing to it. It pisses me off every day.
I love it, man. I love that type of candidness, and that's what we need. So here's my last question to you, then I'll let you go be with your beautiful wife, Sarah. By the way, say hi to her.
Oh, she's been sleeping for hours.
Okay, good. Say it. We'll go into bourbon breath, but here's the deal. I'm going to ask you, like your first date. You just had your anniversary, didn't you?
8 years, yeah. We celebrated in Mexico.
You're in Mexico. That's awesome, man. So, lastly, would you ever think about, with your business acumen, would you ever think about coming to the CFL and being a president? Your buddy is Wade Miller. He's done a great job in Winnipeg. And Jim Hobson is a guy. I talked to Jim Hobson. I said, I'm trying to convince John Ryan to come be a president somewhere in the CFL, Riders or whatever. I'd love to see this guy be a president because he reminds me of you. He's you. You could sit in a business room in a suit. You've been in a room with Brad Pitt and everybody. So you've been at the high level with the celebrities, or you'll go to the Lumsden bar and have a beer with somebody and you won't give a shit. We took you on wolf parties. You ran down the street shirtless after Craven. So, but you get,
damn right I did.
you get football, you get business, you love the CFL. Would you ever entertain coming back here to do something like that somewhere?
I would entertain it in the right situation. Obviously, you and I have known each other for 25 years or whatever. Yeah. You know how much I care about that community. About Saskatchewan, about Regina. If the situation was right, I wouldn't be doing it for the money. I'd be doing it because I care so much about it. And I have people don't realize I have developed a business sense in the sports world. I've owned multiple baseball teams for the last 7 years. I own a little baseball team in Portland that made more money than every team in the CFL last year. I do have that background now, and I've learned a lot. And I think that I could contribute to a team going down the road. And I think it'd be something that I would listen to if someone came to me. It'd have to be the right situation.
Yeah, like what? Like I'm just throwing this up. We're making rumors up here. I love it. It's late at night.
Let's go.
What about Edmonton? Edmonton is looking at private owner. Well, here's one more question for you. Well, I got you. Can a community-owned team work anymore in professional sports? Can it work? Can it really work?
I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. I don't actually see the advantage of having a private owner or having a locally owned team. I don't see their advantage being either way with the salary cap, with the spending limit. I don't see it being any different. I mean, they have a salary cap on how much they can spend on travel, on people that work for the team.
Yeah.
They have a salary cap on everything. So I don't see it being a problem whether you have a private owner or not. So, I mean, in a certain situation, like, look at the NFL, they have a salary cap, but you can have, when I left the Seahawks, they had 27 coaches. You know what I mean? There's no cap on how much you could spend on coaches or anything. So it's a little bit different, but I don't necessarily see the advantage of going private over public other than, you have some poor sap in Edmonton now who's going to lose $3 million a year instead of the community.
So you are a business owner. You did a whole row of Roto-Rooter. Roto-Rooter sponsored all these toilet seats at your ball game there. Like there were seats to sit and watch the game. First of all, how did that go over?
It went over well, and it went over terrible. I think that we had one of our ideas was about the fifth row behind home plate. Roto-Rooter sponsored us, and we replaced all the seats with toilets. And people, there's small thinkers and there's big thinkers. The small thinkers, there's what you're going to sell these tickets for $16 a game. Like, yeah, big thinkers are going to say, well, you're going to be on ESPN, you're going to be on Yahoo Sports, you're going to be on Google, you're going to get national attention.
Yeah.
We were on late night shows, everything that all of a sudden people started to hear who the Lake County captains were. And that's why we did it. Not because we're going to make $16 a game for the ticket. And I think sometimes that's where CFL has been missing the mark, where they're like, well, we were in Portland, we were the first team to ever sell THC drinks at the game, weed drinks, which doesn't change my life. And they're like, well, what's the big deal? You're going to sell every fourth or fifth fan might buy one. You're going to make an extra 5% at the game. Well, no, we were on late night TV. We were on, as I said, on ESPN. We grew the brand through that. And I think that's what more big thinkers think, other than these people that just say, like, well, you're going to sell a couple extra dollars for the game.
With your Cleveland team too, you've got themed suites. Like you've got an 80s themed suite with a bowling lane in there and everything like that, right? Old.
We have a Christmas suite. We have a pirate ship thing. We have just things like that. Just to we have to realize that not everyone wants to watch baseball for 3 hours. Some of them just want to go in there and get drunk and or not drink. I can't say get drunk, but I think what I've seen right now from the CFL is missing the mark. Is they're not doing that. I think that BC's trying to do that. They're having 50 Cent, they're having parties, they're doing that. And when I see the riders right now, I don't think they're doing that. They're $5 beers until first kickoff. Well, okay, that's great, but we have a huge park there. Why aren't we tailgating? Why aren't we having a party? It should be a full day event, and that's what people actually want in Regina. They want a full day event. They love the riders. They want to party all day for the riders. They don't necessarily want to go to a bar and then go to the game. They want to go to the game and stay there all day. And I think they're missing the mark on that. And I think they could really improve that whole entire atmosphere just by doing some small things.
Okay, go to bed. You're overtime. Take care, bud. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Love you.
Take care. Love you too, man. We'll talk soon. You'll come on again one time. I haven't pissed you off that much, have I?
I'll come on anytime.
Thanks, bud. Take care, man.
I'm retired. I have nothing to do. Okay.
I got fired. I have nothing to do. See you later. See you later. Bye. All right. That's John Ryan joining us as he is. He's a beauty, man. I love that guy. What a great guy John Ryan is. Let's address a couple of your texts here. Randy Ambrosi is the Justin Trudeau of the CFL from Steve Kleinsaucer. Jim says 100% he is, and John Ryan for commissioner. I love that. This from E-Lighting in Michigan, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, U.S. labor laws will not abide to Canadians playing in the CFL, like in terms of saving spots for them. Yeah, I get that. Crossing a border will be a nightmare and will get worse, he adds. Northern U.S. states only. Great CFL fan of road trips, tailgating. Well, I think this league does need to look at, I don't know if it would be a nightmare. It was in the COVID bullshit. I don't think it would be now. I crossed pretty seamlessly to Grand Forks every time I went after COVID. So no, I don't think it would be a nightmare. So yeah, I think if they can somehow work out the CFL ratio and somehow work out the kicking rules, like what I mean is leave it all alone. Don't touch anything. Don't change any rules. Keep the ratio the way that it is, or at least kind of balance it off somehow. But I don't know. Can we leave it to the CFL to do that? To be honest with you, they went to Ottawa and asking for money without a plan back during COVID. Anyway, time now for the our balls are bigger. Who showed big balls on offense and defense? On defense, it's easy. Roland Milligan. Roland Milligan had, I think, 4 pass breakups, 2 special teams tackles, should have had an interception, flying around out there. He is the best defensive player in the CFL. So he showed big balls on defense. And on offense, we got to go with Jacob Brammer, the right tackle. I had Saskatchewan all the way till today, and I decided with Paul Waldo that I would take the Winnipeg Blue Bombers because I didn't think with the two tackles they'd be able to hold up, and with the RPO and the athleticism of Shea Patterson, the play calling of Mark Mueller, but the play of Jacob Brammer. He was a road grader out there. I stand corrected. Great find. Good job by Kyle Carson, I guess, and Jeremy O'Day, and the Saskatchewan Roughriders may have found something there at right tackle. They get a win. They're undefeated at home. They're 5-1 in a first-place tie with the BC Lions. So he showed big balls on offense, Roland Milligan on defense, and on special teams, I'm going to go with the other guys. Sergio Castillo, he missed from 61, but for the second straight week, he hit from 57. He is a money kicker, so he gets the big balls on special teams. Thank you to all my sponsors here on the post-game show. Payson Insurance Services. Kevin's a former Ram and Western Mustang D lineman, coaching high school football. He doesn't have a team right now as he was with Miller, but he'd be willing to listen to offers. He works with families and small to medium businesses, helping to maximize their financial security through investments and insurance products. Also consults on employee benefit plans and helps with your retirement, estate, and succession planning. And I can definitely give him an endorsement because he's helped me with life insurance and critical illness insurance as well. You don't want to think about it, but you got to. District Brewing, Super Squeeze Seltzer, Mango Lime, and Passion Fruit Lime. Thanks to them for getting on board, as have Ward Tire Craft, 101 Dudney Avenue, Michael Barth and the gang. Tire and brake needs, ask about their payment plans. Tires for your cars, trucks, or trailers. They can service all your mechanical needs. Gerhardt Studios, Dean and Nicole. Gerhardt Studios for my social media and their help. Like to thank them for getting on board. And Mr. D Stats, Cocktails and Dreams and Cravings, 1832 Victoria Avenue East. They give tickets away at every home game and a jersey for away games. And I got to give a shout out to my new sponsor, 3-time Grey Cup champ, coaches the U of S Huskies, and he's in the real estate game with Royal LePage. Paul Waldo and his brother Peter, they have their own team. They do a great job. If you want to get in the real estate game and talk some football with a 3-time Grey Cup champ, twice with the Owls and once with the Rough Riders, Paul Waldo's the guy to talk to. Give Paul a call, 306-502-5355, one of the nicest men you'll ever meet, and he can chop it up football style while you pick a new home for yourself or sell your home. That is going to do it for the Our Balls Are Bigger postgame show. Once again, Ottawa with a victory over Edmonton, 20-14. Edmonton still winless at 0-6. Hopefully they can get back to some winning ways so we can get some fans back for that once storied franchise. Hamilton trying to get off the schneid tomorrow when they take on the Toronto Argonauts. 5 o'clock kickoff there. That should be a good one. I'm picking Hamilton to win that one, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm 0-2. I had Edmonton and Winnipeg tonight, so what do I know? And then the last game of the week, Calgary is hosting BC in the Wally Buono Hall of Fame game. So that'll be a good wrap up to the season, to the week 7 of the season. Once again, the final score here: Saskatchewan 19 and Winnipeg 9. Thanks to John Ryan. Everybody wants him to be on regularly, and everybody wants him to be the commissioner. I don't know if he can do both. Maybe we'll take baby steps. He can be on here regularly, and then we'll build him up. And eventually maybe he can run a team, or who knows, run a league, because he knows what he's doing. Thank you for checking us out. You can check us out in replay in podcast form. I'll have that up tomorrow, but you can also get us in replay on X, Facebook, and YouTube at Ballsy Uncut. Thanks for your time, and we will talk to you on Monday.